Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of me going over your Splatoon 3 hot takes. Some of the takes in this part are really spicy, so just to be clear, these are hot takes for a reason. They are things that most people will disagree with, so please don't hate someone for having a different opinion than you. Thank you. With that all being said, let's get started. Here we go with the negative take from Jext, which is that the game will be another half step forward instead of a true sequel. The increased movement options might seem like a boom, but if they're coupled with poor map design, it could be disastrous, or it could be exactly what the series needs. The specials will never be balanced, though. Well, yeah, the specials will never be balanced, but I don't think the specials need to be balanced. I think the specials just need to be healthy for the game. I think it's fine that some specials are going to be better than others. Like, it's inevitable that one special will probably be the center of a meta. But the question is that special actually well designed in terms of how you play with and against it? Like, are the specials something that benefit from the game or harm it? And I thoroughly believe that the majority of Splatoon 2 specials harm the game more than making it feel better, whereas in Splatoon 3 it could be the opposite. He is right that there's a lot of areas the devs could mess up, like making the movement options too extreme, or making the maps have poor design, another thing they did in 2 for a lot of the Splatoon 1 ports, or not having enough weapon kit variety, etc, etc. There are a lot of ways it could go wrong. That being said, because Splatoon 3 is trying to fit a mix between Splatoon 2 and 1, I think it has a much better chance for success, because rather than trying to drastically change the formula, it's more trying to find that middle spot that satisfies both sides, and I think that's a lot easier. Basically, I think Splatoon 1 is like Melee, Splatoon 2 is like Smash 4, and Splatoon 3 is trying to be like Ultimate. And Ultimate ended up pretty good, so we'll see what happens with the third game for Splatoon, honestly. Oh boy. Sandy says, Museum is not the only Splatoon 1 map that starts with an M that is coming back. And in a good world, this means Mahi. In a bad world, this means Moray. In a chaotic world, it means both. My personal prediction is that we will get both Mahi and Moray, but hopefully we don't get Moray. I think Sendu's probably right on this one, though. I hate to break it to y'all. Alright, here we go. I have been waiting for this take from Undy, which is, I hate how they're bringing back old stages, sophisticated transfer system by it should have been a remixed Museum de Alfonsino. Instead, they made lore excuses to potentially bring back unchanged old maps. Listen, Splatoon 3 takes place 2 years after Splatoon 2. We are in a new location, but these are a system of Inklings and Octolings that are way technologically advanced. Why is the idea that there is a transport system to go to other places so up in the air? Like, seriously, this is like saying humanity shouldn't have airplanes. Why would we not be able to travel across the world? Are you really going to pretend that Inklings and Octolings can't go around different places when they can super jump through the sky to teleport? Really? Now, if you don't like the idea of old stages coming back, then that's fair. I can't change your mind. In my opinion, I think most of the Splatoon 1 stages are really good. They're really unique compared to Splatoon 2. And I think it is much better to have those stages and allow people to experience them again. I miss a ton of the old ones. And I don't think having a copy of Museum but destroyed makes a lot of sense for the story either. Like, it's been 4 years since Splatoon 1. Why is Museum moved across a location and destroyed? Why? Again, I'm not saying there isn't an argument to be made. If you don't like Splatoon 1 maps coming back, that's fine, but acting like it's going to feel the exact same when it's in a completely different game is absolutely wrong. Walleye feels absolutely terrible in 2, where it felt usable in 1, and the map has 0 changes. Imagine how good stages will feel on a better game. That will be insane. At the same time, maybe you can say it's lazy for development time, but like, would you prefer there being less stages? I mean, yeah, it's definitely easier than making a new stage from scratch, but that's kind of a good thing. If we have a stage idea that people like and it works, why would we not bring it back and use it again? Why would we take this idea that we know people like and just leave it in the dust for lore that doesn't really add up either? I think it is fine that people may not like returning stages. I don't think it breaks the lore, and I think it makes a lot of sense from a game development perspective to bring back old stages. Also, post-edit Chara here, I'm actually going to do an entire video on stage design, why Splatoon 2 maps suck so much, why Splatoon 1, or at least the ending Splatoon 1 maps are good, and why Splatoon 3 could really benefit from bringing them back. So if you want to hear more on this topic from a game design perspective, I will have a video on it in a few days. Pika says the netcode will be somehow worse than Splat 2, and, well, the tick rate for Splatoon 2 during a game is lower than in Splatoon 1, so, I mean, it's possible. I think it might be a bit better because we've seen some of the new multiplayer games be better, but it's also the possibility that they just port the netcode from 2 over and it ends up still being bad. I'd say it's more likely that the netcode is the same than better, but I don't think it'll be any worse. Lucifer says, I think they should keep rotations, but only for ranked, and to decide which maps for ranked, an unrated mode should be added where players can vote for the map they want to play, and the most popular maps from the unrated will be more likely to appear in ranked rotations. I do like a map voting system for popularity. It gives devs good data on what to do. However, I will hard disagree on the rotations. A lot of people, especially adults, who play the game have stuff like college or work and can only play at specific times and may not want to play if the rotation they're currently on is terrible. Because of that reason alone, I think rotations are a really terrible thing for the game. But it's also something that constantly gets scolded by game reviewers or anyone who tries to talk about the game in a review. You will most often find that map rotations are something people don't like. While I do think map rotations have their advantages and they are not as bad as people say, I think as a whole, it is much better to move on and go with a different system. We got Mr. That SRB2 Dude saying sub-strafing might not be in the game because of the new movement mechanics. Now personally, I think while this is a possibility, I think it would be absolutely terrible to make this decision. Once you learn how to substrafe properly, it becomes such an enhancement on the movement of Splatoon. Like, it's such a great thing for the game. It feels so much better when you get it down, that if they suddenly get rid of it, it would just hurt a ton. On top of that, substrafing is a tech that every weapon can do and they patched into the game. So it's not like it will particularly hurt any weapon or limit anything. Everyone can do it. I don't think they're likely to do this. I think the new movement mechanics will be an add-on, like an extra bit of an ability. So I don't really think they'll do this, especially since they patched substrafing into Splatoon 2 ink mines, therefore solidifying it as a mechanic. But it is a possibility. Though in my opinion, removing substrafing, while it is a possibility, would be one of the worst decisions the devs could make for the game. So I really hope they don't do it. Danny Jelly says they should add a setting to allow a player to switch the hand in which their Inkling holds the weapon in the middle of a game. So for those who don't know, everyone holds their weapon on their right hand, and this leads to a strategy known as right peeking, where you stand next to an object that covers the side of your body and allows you to shoot with the weapon while being in cover. It sounds nice on paper, but when you think of being able to switch which side you peek in, you suddenly have to make every stage, do I want left or right peeking? Honestly, the main stages as benefits are mirrored stages like Salt Spray and Skipper, or where they're mirrored instead of being flipped, but the real solution to this is to not have stages that are mirrored like that. No Salt Spray and Skipper type stages, and just stick with the purely flipped ones. People will be excited for the movement options, but if it's not well balanced, a large chunk of weapons will become obsolete and the game will become stale. Basically, this is the claim that it could have the ink armor problem, and I kind of agree that it could be a problem, but I think it's way easier to balance. Like, toning movement options is a lot easier than toning something like ink armor. Personally, I just don't think it'll be that big a problem. Like, I think it's really easy to tone down the movement options, especially with how we've seen them do with dualies, so I think it could be a problem, but I don't think it'll be that big a deal. Squishlin says Nintendo is content with the X-Rank system and won't change it. Probably. I do think they should improve it, and I think they might do a little bit, but I think as a whole, the system works really well in Japan, which is the majority of the Splatoon player base, especially in comp. So, yeah, who really cares? I think they're gonna keep it because it works well in Japan. So, sorry. Pure single-player takes from Young Obama, aka Just Champ, which is sloshing machine being featured means the story might well allow you to use your main weapon the entire time. I agree. Octavio being in the same area as Cuttlefish means they are early game encounters and potential allies. I agree. I really think it's possible that Octavio is an ally because it just wouldn't make sense to have him as the villain 3 times in a row. And everyone's saying Mr. Grizz is going to be the final boss, and that's where I disagree because I think it is way too obvious. Everyone thinks it's going to be Mr. Grizz. They're like, oh, Salmonids can eat it, so therefore getting rid of Salmonids makes sense. Grizzco's sound at the end of the trailer. I don't think it's that simple. I think Grizz may be more of a secondary villain. It's really hard to tell. I don't think Grizz is the 100% bad guy, or at least I hope he's not. Alright, What Waluigi says, the game seems to be having an identity crisis so far. I expected Stings to go into a more chaotic direction, but they have mostly rerun a lot of Splatoon 1 stuff, which I'm not complaining, I just think it'll make the game blend in more. I think people are expecting way too much from the chaos theme. If everything is chaos, it will be boring and get stale. I think that not everything is going to follow the chaos theme. I think it's going to be kind of a little bit of each, but I think that's a good thing because if everything was chaos, it would get incredibly boring. Alright, Ollie says single player should be in the style of a Metroidvania, my bad, where you collect weapons and explore with them instead of being linear and story-based. I actually think it'd be really cool if you collect weapons in single player, and we have seen a machine in single player. I think one of the biggest weaknesses hero mode has is limiting what weapon you use. Like, if nothing else, get rid of that aspect. Stop forcing people to use a weapon. Give them options. Like, it's something that Octo Expansion does so well because it constantly gives you choices on what you want to play. And then hero mode's like, oh, I want you to play a bucket here, or play a shot here. It doesn't do it for every level, but there's so many levels where you're just forced to play a weapon that it really hurts the experience, in my opinion. That being said, the GooTuber getting the buffs to be different from Squiffer, I don't agree with, because I think GooTuber and Squiffer are so stuck to each other in the same niche. The only way that both of them could be good at the same time is if they have unique kits. So, like, say maybe GooTuber has a really good kit with Zipcaster, and Squiffer has one with the Crab Tank. Like, that could give each of them uses. But I think more often than not, both main weapons just are way too similar in roles in terms of what they do. Like, they're a bit different, but they do the exact same type of job of being a more aggressive charger that plays up close and has aggro kits. Like, can it be done? Can GooTuber and Squiffer be made distinct enough to where they're both good? Maybe. Is it worth the hassle when combining them could make both weapons more fun? No. I'm aware some people may not agree with this take, and I've thought a lot about what exactly could be done with GooTuber to make it better, but in the end, I really just think that giving its charge hold mechanic to Squiffer would make it feel way more fun, and I don't think it would alienate GooTuber players that much. Gonna be real, my opinion on that has not changed. Weapons in general need to paint less in Splatoon 2 than in Splatoon 1. More movement is nice, but more weapons can thoroughly control areas with little effort, and special spam is a problem. I agree, I have done an entire video on special spam. I don't think paint needs to be toned down that much. It's more that points for special needs to go up, in my opinion. But again, covered this all in the video, so you can just check that out if you want to hear more about fixing special spam. I do agree that weapons can control space with way too little effort, so having more ink-hungry weapons or less MPU damage up, less special spam, will make it a lot easier, but also the new specials in the game are great at challenging people out of areas, so I think it'll be a lot harder in general. Our last take is from Jack, which says, making meta predictions on Splatoon 3 is stupid until the first test fire comes out because we know nothing about the stats of new weapon specials or anything related to online. Making predictions is fun, and that's the only reason you need to make them. If you enjoy doing it, then why not go for it? Secondly, things that can be interpreted from trailers can end up being relevant to the actual game. For example, we saw Ink Armor in the trailer and most people thought it would be the best special upon release. Lo and behold, when the game launches, it is the best special by a landslide. These predictions can end up being true, and because so many people make them, it is inevitable that some of them will be. Analyzing trailers and stuff may be hard to get things right, but it does get across relevant information that can end up being true when the game launches, so I think it's personally completely fine to make meta predictions about the new game. Let people have their fun. Alright, with that being said, that is all the Splatoon 3 hot takes. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.